Hello, good morning. Now we enter to yet another topic, TS Eliot. We are now dealing with all modern critics. This is a very extraordinary modern writer, TS Eliot. And without T.S. Eliot, you cannot pass any degree or post-graduation in literature. As such a complex poet and a writer and a dramatist, T.S. Eliot is what you call a very strong backbone of 21st century literature. And from the beginning of 1888, his lifespan coming 1888 to 1963, T.S. Eliot. Once you study great poem written by T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland, the poem which totally changed the atmosphere of modern literature, the real modern literature, and what all the different backgrounds of 20th century literature. And I am damn sure without understanding this complex poet, you cannot overcome the milestones of literature till this end. T.S. Eliot, what I would say, any poet can be easily understood. But this poet, once you keep this poet's poem here and read and try to understand, you will need so many books in and around to get different references. Such a complex poet. And so it is not very easy to comprehend his poem. And he has also written even dramas, Murder in the Cathedral, and even beautiful poems and treatises, and even what is called critical writing like this tradition and individual talent in which, just like Wordsworth, your Coleridge and Shelley, he gives what should be a poem, what should be the function of a poem, what all the methods by which you can write a poem, what all the techniques you have to depend, what is the meaning of tradition, what is the utility of individual talent that you apply in the way of writing poem. So T.S. Eliot as a modern writer, as I think you should approach very carefully. Though traditional individual talent given in the syllabus, some minor topics from the book itself given, historical sense, impersonality concept, poetic emotion concept, then objective correlative method that you studied some different figure of speeches and different tools at the last module of your syllabus might have been taught by your teachers. Disassociation of sensibility as a concept. So 4 to 5 different topics we have to discuss. So major and complex poet as T.S. Eliot, that you have to check in your internet and get ideas on T.S. Eliot. You will get great pleasure. So I admit that he is a complex poet and his wordings and utterances are complexes. But once you understand these difficult areas, you will really enjoy the poet. Now, towards this span of time, he lived in America and later went to England and became British citizen, during which he had to face a lot of troubles. He was really born in America. In September 26, 1888, he was born. And he was the 7th son of his parents. Just like Indian Kerala families, during the time I am the seventh son or seventh child of my family. During that time in England and America, there was no control of our birth rate, and he was the seventh son. But his grandfather was very highly educated. His name was William Greenleaf Eliot. Greenleaf Eliot. He was the grandfather, mother's father. Grandfather. He was a scholar, and he was a great man of education. One of the members who founded even Washington University. It is written in the biography. This William Greenleaf Eliot, grandfather to TS Eliot, was one of the members who founded Washington University. And father Henry Eliot, he was a businessman. T.S. Eliot's father was a businessman. In and around T.S. Eliot, being a child, was forced to attend some trade business people because his father, Mr. Charlotte Clancy Steams, mother was Charlotte Clancy, and he was a daughter of a businessman. But his mother was a talented lady, and it is reported and written in the biography. Charlotte, used to write some poems, even biographies. The biography of Eliot's grandfather, William Greenleaf Eliot. Eliot's mother herself wrote a biography on this mother's father. Biography. In the 18th year age, he joined in Harvard University. And even so many professors like Professor Irving and Professor George influenced him. So once he was after intermediate course, and he went to Harvard University and joined. He had a lot of eminent professors. Once he was a student in Harvard, he became the editor of a literary magazine in the college, and everybody used to call him Harvard advocate. Harvard, just like a nickname. He talks like a barrister. He talks like an advocate. So everybody, in a way or another way, called him Harvard advocate. Later he came to England, and later he wrote so many reviews on international journals of ethics. A technical book he published. Once he came to England, he wrote this book, International Journal of Ethics. And later he was sometime a professor, and later he became a bank employee, and later even editorial staff in a magazine. So threefolded employment opportunities he had obtained. Once he was a professor for some time, then banker, then later became an editor of a magazine. In 1927, he became British citizen. Then later he wanted to study something related to modern century. So once he reached in 1927 in Britain and understood the chaosities of modern life and what all the troubles in the modern life people face. So he wanted to study and to be known as 20th century poet. So once we study modern literature without T.S. Eliot and his poems and writings, it is very impossible to come across. So he wants to be known as a 20th century poet. So he produced a certain, a series of poems. The first one, proof-rock poems in 1917. He started in 1917. That is called proof-rock poems. It was a revolt against tradition. What do you mean by tradition? Wordsworthian tradition, Age of Reason tradition, classic tradition, romantic revival tradition, or Coleridge tradition. All the traditions were totally shattered. Tradition in the way of writing, tradition in the way of function of poetry, tradition using the words in the tradition, tradition in the way of rhythm, keeping in the poem. All the traditions in 20th century really shattered by the presence of T.S. Eliot. Then he told, traditions are only limited. We want some more individual applications of our talent. That may be the reason he brought out the famous essay, Tradition and Individual Talent. Then it was a revolt against the tradition. Poem, they give the reader something new. T.S. Eliot opines, T.S. Eliot says, poems give the reader something new, something arresting, something intellectual, and something vital. That you may copy down which all these points. According to T.S. Eliot, poems or poetry give the reader something new, something arresting, something intellectual, something vital. These four elements appear in the modern way of literature, the way of poems, what T.S. Eliot believes. Before entering what is given in the tradition and individual talent, you should keep these points in mind before approaching the poet. Because such a complex poet that he is, that you have not studied many poems related to T.S. Eliot in your graduate studies. But in the future, definitely, you will come across without which you cannot pass your post-graduation or literary studies in future. In 1922, after 1977, in 1922, his famous poem, The Wasteland, appeared. April is the cruelest month. The poem begins like that. April is the cruelest month. It is not the university exam time, but April for England, for urban life people, April is a month of cruelty, because poet writes a lot of incidents in the poem, section by section, that you will have to study. It is just like a epic in modern century. All right, it is just like what Hamlet to Shakespeare, Wasteland to T.S. Eliot. Such a beautiful, complex and renowned popular poem that you should read. A complete creation of the sense of waste in 20 centuries. What all the things in the field, living in the past was very easy, but living in the present is so complex. Living in the present is so difficult that human beings cannot face the troubles that they face in 20th century. So in 20th century, life is totally spoiled. No that much blood relation we maintain. And what is the cause behind it? Everything is explained in wasteland. The land itself becomes waste. All right, barren land, just like Thebes that you find in epic drama called Oedipus the Rex. So he was also a dramatic, and later he became a critic, greatest editor of Criterion. The Sacred Wood in 1920 contained essay, Tradition, Individual Talent. Eliot got Nobel Prize in 1947. In 1947, all right, when India got freedom, during this time, TS Eliot got Nobel Prize. And later, lot of prizes, Goethe Award was given to him. Lot of awards were given to him for the poetic production of his books and all the things that he conveyed, conveyed in the life, where you got in 1965, he passed away. So what I tried to give you a short biographical introduction to T.S. Eliot, how he became a writer, how he became a real motivational speaker in the world of literature, what all the things that he has written, and birth problem, parentage, grandfather, his father and mother, education in the Eliot, and the later in Europe. After that he came to England. His marriage life, it was also somewhat dramatic in stage. He married a lady which sustained for only some time, and later they were separated, it is written. And then British citizen, Eliot's poem, Eliot is considered to be the most important influential poet. That you have to keep in mind. He is considered to be the most influential poet. He is more with us, having left world of at the age of 76. His Profork poems in 1917, very sound revolt against tradition. So Profork poem, that is a group of poems he has published in 1917, came to be a revolt against tradition. And they give the reader something new, something arresting, something intellectual, something vital. These 4 points we need to consider T.S. Eliot as a poet. Underline these or write point down. His poems, or he opines, poems give reader something new, something arresting, then something intellectual, something vital. All right, so then later he wrote Murder in the Cathedral dramas, and the second drama is The Rock, 1924. Second drama which became popular, Murder in the Cathedral. And also as a critic, he had a lot of ideas related to the poem or poetry, and he became a real critic, greatest critic. And he has published his Tradition and Individual Talent, a book called Sacred Wood, that is in 1920. So in such a way, our T.S. Eliot became very popular. So all the areas you should have an idea related to his birth, then his parentage, his grandfather, his father and mother, then his education, then how he came to England, then British citizen, then his poems, major poems, then dramas of Eliot, then as a critic, what did he do? So once after that you go from romantic revival or romantic revival poets or critics to the 20th century critics, lot of 20th century critics available, among which T.S. Eliot makes his very grand position, where without learning and studying T.S. Eliot, you cannot go through. So in the syllabus, we have 6 important areas that you copy down. 1, what is known by tradition and individual talent. Second, historical sense, the sense what you want. Then the area called impersonality, all right, poetic emotion, that we will write the areas that we come across in the class. First topic we have to discuss, all right, the syllabus given, all right, tradition, all right, individual talent, it is the AC, talent, individual talent, tradition and individual talent. Second subtopic given, historical sense, historical sense means what? Subtopic given historical sense, and we related to that. All these areas coming in the same essay, but by subheading we have to discuss. Then third one is impersonality. What is called impersonality? All right, this is a topic that you have to discuss, impersonality. Then fourth one is poetic emotion. Poetic emotion, all right, related to imagination, related to pleasure, that we came across earlier. In Wordsworth also speculated and advised about emotion. Later Coleridge put it in imagination. Shelley put it in pleasure. The same way, TS Eliot wants to give you an elaborative discussion on what is called poetic emotion. And two other topics, all right, we call that you already studied, objective, correlative, all right, relative, that you already studied in the figure of speeches, and the tools and the medium by which you study, it comes in the module number 6, last module in the same syllabus, that will be taught by some other teachers in the class. Before that, you should be aware that objective correlative as a tool that is envisaged by TS Eliot in his modern criticism. Then we come to the last one, disassociation. Disassociation, all right, of sensibility. What is called sensibility? All right, disassociation of sensibility as a topic. So how many topics available here? All these are incorporated, interrelated in the same essay topic, but we have to specialize in the each topic and prepare point by point what is called tradition and individual talent. So to conclude our first class on TS Eliot, I had tried to give you a small biographical sketch of the writer TS Eliot, and which all the areas that you have to give your focus, your concentration to deal with the TS Eliot as a modern critic. So the total pitch of the ground is planned, prepared. By next class, we will jump over to tradition and individual talent, and what is it, what is meant by tradition, what is meant by individual talent, and tradition, how far we can depend on tradition. All these are to be dealt in future. After that, we come to the historical background, impersonality, the topic as a concept, poetic emotion as a topic, how you can interfere, objective correlative theory, that theory by which how the function of poetry can be developed and developed. So probably the biographer says it was his grandfather William Greenleaf Eliot motivated him very much to be a great scholar, and he studied not merely in the Harvard, but also in Oxford, and later became a professor and a banker and also a writer. And to his credit, not merely poetry, but also dramas and treatises and so many essays and reviews that he has published. And he has become a complex writer for the literature of the students. And let us wait how we can approach him in the coming future classes. Till that moment, goodbye.